Welcome, everyone.
Good morning.
We can get started, I believe. So, Pamela, do you want to say hello?
Good day, everyone, and welcome. We are so excited about today's program, and we hope that you are ready to join breakout groups and really participate. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And so, like, just to start us off, and I've been really thinking about it, walking through the streets of New York City as I pass by many different people of all ages, of how finite life is. And yes, yeah, I have a neighbor in my building who had just recently passed, and my husband was at the funeral this morning. And so it just made me very, very reflective of that, and the various challenges that we're going through, but how fortunate and how privileged I feel to be in a space with all of you and doing our best in serving others. What we do with our life is just, I mean, yeah, can't emphasize how important that is, right? And so I just wanted to share a little bit of that as we go into, this moment of pause so that we can kind of center ourselves and be present and intentional before we start this meeting today. So if you can just join me in that quiet for just a few seconds. So thank you. And what a great topic to talk about, intergenerational solidarity. And if any of you were here for CSW 69, and even if you weren't here, you could catch it on web TV. We did have a civil society briefing on this topic. And so we're continuing the conversation today. Pamela and I had a few updates on the executive committee before I hand it over to Susan, but we are going to be holding our executive committee retreat. We're going to have two this year. And the first is going to be on the 11th, I believe, the second Tuesday of June. And then we'll hold another. And these retreats are quite important for us because this is when we figure out, what our plan is for the coming year. And just as a preview, I kind of hinted to the challenges, we're all facing, the UN is facing currently. And so we are reassessing many things, and that may mean scaling back in some ways. It doesn't mean we're going to stop doing what we're doing, but we're going to be in discussions about that. And we will have also a solidarity circle that we're going to hold on when is the date? The 3rd of June, Tuesday, from 11 o'clock. And we hope that you'll participate in that. We will share more details on that, but I hope the title itself is enticing for you to join. The Wellbeing and Community Space group will be co-sponsoring that. And that's all I have to say before turning it over to Susan O'Malley, the chair of the nominating committee. Thank you, Susan.
Okay. How do you turn it over to me? I've got my video and audio, but I'm very small.
Okay.
Oh, I'm a little bigger. That's good. That's good. Okay. Today's task is to establish the nominations for the NGO CSW Executive Committee for the 2025-2027 term. Now, I see there are a couple of people here, I think, who were in the nominating committee. First, I would like to thank the members of the nominating committee. Please raise your hand when I call your name, if you are in attendance, of course. So, the names of the nominating committee. First, I did see Beth Blissman, the Loretto community. Can we make her big? Yes. Ah, good, good, good. I'm so glad you're here. Victoria Edmonds, Salvation Army. I'm not sure she is here. She might be. I don't think so. Okay. Oh, yes, there she is. Great. I'm so glad you came, and I'm glad for your work. Barbara Horn, who worked very hard. I hope she's here. Barbara, are you here? Athletes United for Peace is her. Yeah. Guess she's not here, right? And then finally, Jean Quinn. Now, UN Anima International, I don't know quite if, so we have three. Do we have, anyway, thank you. Thank you so much. And then I need to give a special thanks to Mary Luke. We started off as co-chairs, and she did an amazing amount of work. And then suddenly I was told she couldn't be on it because her NGO was not ECOSOC accredited. So I felt very bereft not having Mary Luke with me, but I want to thank her because she did so much of the initial work. Okay, so let's start with the nominating committee. Oh, wait a minute, I've done that. All right, so now we're moving on to presenting the names from the nominating committee. All right, what I would like you to do if you're here, that you make yourself visible to us. Okay, so the nominating committee respectfully submits the following report for your consideration. In accordance with the bylaws and procedures of NGO CSW, the nominating committee was charged with identifying and recommending qualified candidates to serve in leadership positions for the upcoming term, 2025-2027. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the name, the position, and then the person, and also their NGO. And it would be, if you're here, it would be very nice for you to identify yourself. Now, we are going to have co-chairs once again. And the first one I'm announcing is Rosa Lizarde. Is she here? Or is she here? Oh, good. So you got back from the
I
graduation.
am here, yes.
Anyway, okay. And can you pronounce properly the name of your NGO? I can do it, but it won't be as nice as if you say it. Rosa? Or do you want me to say it? Servicios Ecumena. Please, could you announce the name of your?
No, it's the Noble Delta Women's Movement for Peace and Development International.
I can't understand you. Can other people understand her?
Yes.
Yes. All right, so you've announced your NGO? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And I can put it in the text.
That's weird. Wonder why I can't hear you better. Anyway, so once I announce the person, if there is a nomination from the floor, you can raise your hand and nominate someone. Now, what we're giving you is the nominating committee after consulting the bylaws and talking and whatever, our recommendations. But in the bylaws, it says, if you wish, you may nominate from the floor an additional nominee. The person nominating and the person nominated must be members of an ECOSOC accredited NGO. So you got that, the nominator and the person nominated. Is there a nomination for co-chair? All right. Then I'm going to move on to the next co-chair, which is Pamela Morgan, who has agreed to run again from Zonta International. There she is. I want to say at this moment that, because everyone's going to say, what about Ivy? Well, Ivy is going to be ex officio and participate in that way. She made that decision that would be the best thing for her. So, all right, moving on. Secretary, is Marlene McLean here? Is Marlene here? I don't see her. Okay, they want to know what language I'm speaking. What? You can't tell. All right, so Marlene is not here. Or is she? Wait a
No,
minute.
she's not here, Susan.
She is not here. Okay. She's from Seroptimus International. Now, is there any nomination from the floor for secretary? All right, then her name is put in nomination. Treasurer, nominated is Jillian D'Souza, Nazareth, Red Dot Foundation. Is she here?
She's not here.
We're not doing too well, are we? Yeah. Okay. Are there any nominations for that position from the floor? All right. It says my internet connection is unstable. I don't understand, but is it okay?
We can
So
hear you.
yeah, okay. All right, moving on. Then we move to the members at large, of which we have 3. And the first one is Liliane in the Kunzaman from Baha'i International Community. Is she here?
I'm here with my mom.
Oh, I'm so glad. Hello, Mom. And
And-
congratulations, Mom,
Andrew.
for having such a daughter. Yes. Okay. So I'm so glad that you're going to be on the executive committee. Are there any nominations from the floor for this position? Given there aren't, moving on to member at large. We have 3 members at large. And is Fontini Papagiotti here? She is a member of the International Center for Research on Women. Okay, are there any nominations from the floor? Given that, we'll move to our final one, member at large, Emily Van Vleck from International Federation of Business and Professional Women. Are you here, Emily? There she is. I am so excited, Emily.
I am here.
Emily and I are in the same NGO, and she's
Good to see you.
extraordinary.
Thank you.
And she's extraordinary. But I have to ask, are there any nominations from the floor? Given none, okay, so we have our slate, which what that means is that in our next meeting in June, then the term starts July 1st and it will be confirmed, whatever, and announced. But there are no anyone contesting the election. And so
Susan,
with that,
I want to check the chat, Susan. There's someone
What?
asking. Susan, this is
Oh.
Beth. You may wish to check
Oh,
the
good.
chat.
Oh, yes, but there's 68 things in the chat. Okay, let's see.
Just so you know, the most recent ones coming in, a question from Fatima El Fakir to everyone, please, how to be nominate. Meaning, I think she's asking, how does one nominate either oneself or another person?
Thank you very much for
Someone
noticing
named
this and getting-
Lindora is nominating Lillian. I'm not sure who Lillian is.
Well, Lillian is nominated as member at large from the Baha'i. Let's see. I mean, I have like 70 things here. So could you read it again, that one? Is it someone nominating Lillian that's already nominated anyway?
I believe it's coming from Lindora Diawara to everyone. I nominate Lillian. And Lindora, we have no idea the last name of the Lillian that you are nominating. So if you
I
could
think
put
it's
that in
the
the
same
chat.
person. I think it's the same person that I just nominated. That is Lillian from Baha'i? Or do they have the same name?
Susan, it might be helpful for you to reread the bylaws that you read at the beginning so people understand the process?
Susan,
yes,
she
that's a
did
good idea.
say, I'm sorry,
But first,
excuse
can
me. She
can
did
I-
say yes. She responded, Lindora responded and said yes. That is the same, Lillian.
it is, so she has been
She has
nominated.
responded, if you wish to check. The last response says yes from her.
Yes, but she was nominated by the nominating committee,
Yes,
so everything
Good.
is
she's agreeing.
fine. No?
What I
Yes.
understand is she's agreeing.
So Susan, if you can just reread the bylaws that specify the process.
Yes. I will read the bylaws, but we just nominated her and accepted her for the position.
That's correct.
But
So we can move on.
that's my sense. If it's she was the first member at large.
Maybe the person
nominated.
wants to run from the floor. Oh, maybe she's running from the floor, the person who's asking.
Yes. She was nominated both by the nominating committee and by someone on the floor right now. So she is officially nominated because the nominating committee nominated her. So she doesn't need to be nominated a second time. She's in. What can I say? There are no, this is the final slate. There are no additional names, contested names, unless they appear at this meeting. And they have to be both the person nominated and the person nominating have to be from ECOSOC accredited NGOs. So
There is one hand by Lizzie Igbine.
Yes, thank you very much, and greetings to everyone. I'm Lizzie Igbine from Nigeria. We are ECOSOC organization. Our organization is Nigerian Women Agro-Allied Farmers Association. I'm invited to this meeting, and I want to ask: is there any opportunity for Africans in the board, in the council that is being formed? Thank you.
Thank you, Lily, for that question. Our bylaws state that, excuse me, members of the executive committee must live within the New York metropolitan area.
Okay, we are not
And
in New York.
they must be members of NGO CSW.
Yes,
they
we
must
are.
be regular organizational members. So your member, the organization that you represent has to
Yes.
be ECOSOC accredited organization.
Yes. Yes, but we are not in New York.
Okay, then you would not be eligible.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
okay, so I think my task is done and we can proceed with the meeting. All right.
Yes.
I think we now have the slate that will be presented in June, whereupon it will be finalized or and the term will start July 1st. And it's a wonderful, wonderful group of candidates who are now official. We're lucky to have you all. Okay. And all right, thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you so much.
So the meeting
Susan.
can proceed.
Thank you, Susan, and thank you, nominating committee, for all the time and energy you took to put together this slate, this wonderful slate. And I'm really looking forward to working with this new executive committee.
And thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. So turning over to our program, I'm so excited, and I mean, Pamela and I both really appreciate Rachel's efforts to put this program together. And so it's on building intergenerational trust through solidarity. And we will have time for breakout groups, and we hope everyone stays for that. And am I missing anything, Pamela? Did I forget some? No, I'm good. I guess we will jump into this. How do we build trust, and what's intergenerational, and yeah, this is something I'm very excited about. So I'll turn it over to you, Rachel, and Aruna, I believe, right? Thank you, Runa, for being here.
Thank you so much, Ivy. I'm so excited to have everyone here today to talk about this, and really excited to have Aruna with us. She is a globally recognized gender and development expert with over 30 years of experience driving institutional change for gender equality. She is the co-founder and former executive director of Gender at Work, and we are just so thrilled to have her with us. I introduce you and I will spotlight you here. Okay, thank you so much.
So much, Rachel, and I'm really happy to be here. We have two really interesting speakers today in the panel. The panel is on building intergenerational trust through solidarity. Our first speaker is going to be Aishka Najib. Aishka is a climate justice activist and organizer based in the UAE. Hi, Aishka. Her work focuses on ensuring the leadership and meaningful participation of those at the front lines of the crisis. And this is reflected in her advocacy with Fridays for the Future, people in most affected people and areas. She's one of the UNICEF Youth Advocates to the UAE and supports the Gulf Area Office with her expertise in climate change. And our second speaker is Marcy Albaher. Marcy is an author, speaker, social impact leader. Hi, Marcy. With deep expertise at the intersection of workplace and career innovation, as well as intergenerational collaboration and aging with purpose. I love your gray hair. She brings a rich perspective on how older and younger generations can come together to address some of the society's most pressing challenges. And as a chief engagement officer at CoGenerate, a nonprofit dedicated to building the generational divide, she leads the organization's narrative change, thought leadership, and field building initiatives. So I have the pleasure of asking Aishka if you would start off the panel. We know that you have been working on trust building exercises, and especially on if you could share with us some of your insights from these exercises that you've been engaged in, and how they affect feminist movement spaces and others, and any personal stories that you'd like to share on this topic. So over to you.
For sure. Thank you so much, Aruna, for such a great introduction. And it's such a pleasure to, share this space with you. So just to begin, I have the story to share that it was on the lead up to Beijing Plus 30 was a huge moment for us. And, there was so many publications that was coming up, especially expert papers that each of the countries were publishing, and we were looking into it. We were seeing, how close have we come or how far have we come with the Beijing Plus 30 and its implementation, and how close are we even to, getting SDG 5 and gender equality, in our daily lives and in all of the international and national policies. And during that reflection, we also realized we're forgetting a huge part, which is internal reflection, which is reflecting within the movements that we come from and the feminist collectives that we come from. Because as much as we were holding the states accountable, we were having this conversation on how do we hold ourselves accountable. And within that kind of spark is when Baha'i international community, especially Lily, who's here, called Young Feminist Caucus, who does a lot of work in the lead up to the CSWs and so on, and also within UN Women framework, and along with the Generation Equality Forum's Feminist Movements and Leadership Action Coalition and NGO CSW, we got together and we were like, you know what, let's make it a series. let's make it a series where we bring people together and talk about some of the needs that the feminist movements have, and also, just create honest spaces of reflection on where we have reached so far and where we can strengthen and improve ourselves and hold ourselves accountable. And honestly, we've had 3 series virtually and 1 series in person during CSW in New York, and it was an incredible journey to go through that. And something that we started off was that we were sure amongst ourselves, as much as we wanted to create a safe space within this conversation, what we wanted to aim for was not just a safe space, but a brave space. By that, what I mean is we wanted to create a space where we could have conversation where we were okay sitting in discomfort. And we invited each other to sit in discomfort. And we were like, it's okay to say that there are hurdles, there are things that we haven't, internally reflected and we haven't achieved. And to have those kind of brave conversations where we are addressing these gaps and challenges within our own movements and our own collectives. And through these, set of conversations, we really, really found that trust is foundational to any movement that we come from, and especially in this era of geopolitical situations and the extreme right-wing governments and fascism increasing across the world, we as movements need to unite. And what is also important is that as we unite, let's also make sure that the partnerships that we're forming is intergenerational in itself. Something that came out of the conversations is that many young people experience, especially young feminists experience, that, we are inheritors of the, years worth and decades worth of work that feminists before us have done. But right now, what we also hope to be is co-creators to the next thing that we are creating, the next seeds that we are planting in the movement. And we also hope that this can be sort of a dynamic shift of power sharing from generations. And true intergenerational collaboration really goes beyond just, mentorship or knowledge transfer that is often talked about, but it is really about co-leadership, right? How young voices must not only be included, but how are they empowered to shape the movement that is coming up. And also we know that older generations should support the younger generation without gatekeeping and offer guidance without holding on to power. And trust is only built when the knowledge flows in both directions, right? When experiences meets innovation and when history informs new strategies. And we really felt that what we were, aiming towards was very collective. It was to dismantle the power imbalances within feminist spaces. And it is just as critical as dismantling them in broader society, right? And also we really, really, sort of agreed on the fact that equitable decision making within the feminist movements requires an active commitment to decolonizing leadership, addressing disparities of race, of class, and geography, and to really ensure that those who have historically been sidelined are now at the forefront. And leadership must not just be confined to those with institutional privilege, which we often see in our movements. And we were very sort of, encouraging that discomfort to, call it out and address it. But it really must be this kind of, leadership must really be shared, distributed, and redefined. And honestly, feminist movements are the strongest when they reject hierarchical models and when they embrace collective leadership, because that is what is going to ensure sustainability across generations. We've also seen that traditional power structures often replicate the very inequalities that the feminist movements seek to dismantle. And we know that many of our movements are, grown up in environments that somehow in that process we started to internalize and integrate those kind of oppressive systems that we are looking to dismantle. So how do we talk about leadership in a more meaningful way, in a way that we're including people not just as consultants but as in a participatory method? And how do we make sure that the marginalized voices are not just included in conversation, but they're the ones that is driving decision making? So this is also where, along with intergenerationality, we bring in intersectionality, where we are seeing intersectionality not just as a theoretical framework, but we're seeing it as something that can guide actions, policies, and leadership structures. So within this conversation, to sort of sum it up, I can go on and rant about it. But within this conversation, what we sort of came together is that there's a lot of feminist infrastructure that we need to build, and feminist infrastructure that can withstand and that can be resilient to the current geopolitical situation, especially the increasing right wing that is being, and the anti-rights movement that is being so organized. So how do we come together and organize in times like this? And how do we build that infrastructure where we are not running into burnout time and time again, and we're not running into, competition and individuality over power? Rather, we are existing in community. And we were also, ending with the conclusion that every step of the way, how do we act with care? How do we ensure that care is integrated within our feminist infrastructure and not just an afterthought? And I'll stop here. And we also actually hope to publish a piece that came out of these trust series. So please look forward to that and reading in more detail our conversations.
Thank you so much, Aishka. You've started off the conversation absolutely brilliantly, raised really important issues. You've put this in the context of where we are now. And where we are now is a crisis of incredible proportions in so many directions. And so your emphasis on co-creation, solidarity, breaking down power, taking care of each other, enabling knowledge to flow in both directions is so critical, because the broader situation and context we're facing is very powerful. And so we need to really come together in very creative ways. And I think you've really, I love the issues that you've raised, and I think you've really raised important issues. So brilliant start to this conversation. Thank you so much. Marcy, turning over to you, you've focused on initiatives on collaboration between generations for many years. You come to this work with many years of experience, and you've also recently put out a report where you're asking young people, I understand, what it is they would like to see in terms of allyship from the more experienced generation. And I know there's a second part coming up, which is the other side of the coin. What do those more experienced activists what would they like to see from the younger generation? So turn it over to you, and really looking forward to the insights from your work.
Thank you, Aruna, and thank you for setting the stage so beautifully, Ashka. And I'm glad that you went first, Ashka, because I think that's one of the big kind of learnings from our work, is that it's time to pass the mic to younger voices. So whenever I'm on one of these panels, it's so gratifying to me when the younger voice speaks first, because I think I should be in a position to respond and add. And frankly, Aishka, you said so much that matches what we've learned in the work we've been doing when we talk to younger activists in particular. But I think it's going to be rounded out by what we're learning from the older leaders. So I'll just kind of situate where I come from, as you did. And you're working on a global stage and centered in feminist activism. Our work is more domestic to the US, although we are obviously paying attention to global forces. But we're a tiny organization, so our focus is on the US, and we don't just work in feminist spaces. We work with social impact leaders in all kinds of issues. But we learn a lot from the feminist movements of the past and the present. Our organization is called Co-Generate, and I just want to say we made up that word. It's a word we borrowed from the energy space. Co-generation means when multiple power sources come together to create more power. And that's our take on cross-generational collaboration. And as Aishka beautifully set up, everything we're trying to do is steeped in mutuality and equity between the different voices at the table. And when you're dealing with age difference, age is never the only thing in the room, that we all come together with all our other identities and all the other differences we bring. Our little organization, we're only about 10 people, was founded actually to work on issues related to an aging population. So we used to be called encore.org, as in encore, your second act. And our thesis was, we are an aging population, and with longer lives comes this like longer period, particular for social activists and social impact oriented change makers, where you can contribute in different ways. So our organization spent 20 years really honoring what we can do in our second and third acts, what's appropriate to do, what does society need from people in our later chapters of work and life. And so there is something called the Encore movement, which is what we spent most of our history working on. And what we realized is, not only are we in an aging society, but we are also in a multi-generational society, the most age-diverse society we've ever lived in, because of gains in longevity, hopefully in many places, decreases in infant mortality and reasons for dying young. So, but if older change makers are going to be valuable in the world, they need to partner with younger change makers. So we shifted about 4 years ago. We shifted our mission from Encore to co-generation, but this value of honoring the contributions of older people, it's kind of steeped in our DNA. And Aruna, when you commented on my gray hair, when we made our name change, I'm like, I need to let my hair go natural. None of this dyeing my hair. I want to own my age and claim it in the world. So we made some changes to our organization. We were founded by a man who is now in his mid-60s, Mark Friedman. We named a co-CEO, Eunice Lynn Nichols, who is a woman of a totally different cultural background, 25 years his junior, and they are co-leaders now of our organization. We are trying to model this kind of shared leadership, and maybe a new way to think about passing the torch, but rather everything being about partnership and collaboration. So we're trying to flatten the hierarchy of our organization. We made huge changes to how we pay ourselves and to how we title ourselves. And my own practice, as I hit this, I've been working for 35 years. I do a lot of public speaking. My policy now is, whenever I get a speaking invitation, I try to share the stage with someone younger or older, because often it is the oldest and the youngest that are most marginalized, whose voices are not being heard. So I was just happy that the way this was structured already had that in place. So I'm going to just share a few of the learnings we had from that younger leaders report, and I'm going to preview a few of the learnings we've had from the older leaders report coming out this summer. I'll just give you 4 from each. From the young leaders report, and I think, Aishka, you hinted at some of these already. We believe that personal connection always precedes good collaboration. When we come together as humans and we share more of ourselves and we know something about each other and have that curiosity, it's much easier to partner on the hard work that we have to do. The concept of paying your dues is not working for young people anymore. In a world where it feels like time is running out, the world is literally on fire. So this idea of waiting for your chance on the leadership ladder, it just doesn't make sense anymore, especially when we see the kind of leadership that young people have already taken on the global stage. Young leaders are not afraid to talk about mental health and well-being. It is like very out there in ways that older leaders were not familiar with. And I think we are learning from younger generations, and I put myself in that. And the future of leadership is co-generational. That is something that is mirrored on both sides. We need new models for sharing power, for sharing voice, for sharing leadership. We held a roundtable with a bunch of our older and younger leaders just a couple of months ago in Los Angeles. And what we heard from the older leaders, which echoes the scores of interviews we've been doing, is that older leaders have a lot of admiration for what younger leaders are able to do, and the way they are kind of starting new movements and conversations. But this was echoed by the younger leaders. The older leaders wanted to work with younger leaders on better ways to hold and navigate conflict, especially when young leaders have told us that a lot of what they've learned about conflict happens online and not always in real organizing spaces, not always face to face. The idea of ambition is complicated in longer lives. We have people who are ready to pass the torch, move on, leave their leadership positions in their 50s and 60s. And then we have other people who are just hitting their stride, who may have taken long breaks for parenting, for care, who are moving into spaces and itching for their own chances at leadership. So this idea that older leaders, you know those expressions, you met one anything, you've met one older leader, you've met one older leader. So older leaders do not want to be painted with a broad brush of where they are on their own journey. And the last one is that echoes the younger, that sharing power is critical and we need to figure out ways to do that. And just as younger leaders recognize that older people hold so much power in the world, older people feel that younger leaders hold a lot of cultural power and a lot of power in certain industries where older people are being pushed aside and having their voice silenced. So there's so much common ground in what we're seeing and what we're craving in these new models. And then I'll just close with, I have this cross-age and cross-gender collaboration with my young colleague, Duncan. He's 30, I'm 59. And we have a little roadshow we do called Co-Generation at Work. And we've actually been speaking to lots of companies. We spoke at Climate Week last year. We've been all over the place. We center our talk on how we can collaborate in the workspace. And we really see this idea of intentionally partnering across generation as a way to combat the kind of ageism that both young and older people are facing today. The younger version of it is like, are you sure you're ready? Or, we're inviting you to the table, but do you really have a seat? Is the table fully set? And the older version of that is, are you ready to step aside? Or kind of really just not often inviting you to the party where it's happening. So Duncan and I have our own power sharing story. When we speak, we delegate responsibilities according to each what we like to do. I'm out there, my relationships often get us invited, get us to the place. Duncan feels really strongly that he should hold the mic a little more than me because people see the two of us and assume I am the kind of senior member of our team. So we've really worked hard to try to flip the script and flip expectations. And we're really trying to co-design at every step of the way. So I'll leave you with pause now because I feel like there's so much to dig into.
Thank you so much, Marcy. It's so useful to hear, first of all, that there's a lot of cohesion between the kinds of insights that are coming from your work that are more domestically oriented, focused here, and what Aishka was saying. But it's also really interesting to know, the sort of the day-to-day, everyday kinds of changes you can make in an organization in terms of how you behave, how you relate, how you actually practice the kinds of things that Aishka was raising in her in when she spoke. So thank you both very much. I know that many people on this call will have lots of questions, would love to engage with you, and there will be time, of course, for everyone on the call to first be engaged in the small group discussions, and then I understand a little later on there will be a chance to engage with you. But for now, I want to thank you both, Aishka and Marcy, very much for your insights and for laying this this broad canvas. And we can. It's really heartwarming to hear you both talk about care, to both how you both talk about sharing power and co-leadership, and wise words from both of you. So thank you very much, and I'm going to turn it back now to Rachel.
Thank you so much, all of you, for your insights. This has been so illuminating, and I think we all have a lot to think about going into the breakout rooms. I will open them in a moment, and if you all have the program, which I sent in the chat, and I can resend it, and you will also all have facilitators in your breakout rooms to guide you through these questions that we can ponder and taking into account everything that we've heard. So I will be opening the rooms now. If anyone has any issues joining their rooms, just send me a message. But yes, they are opening now. Welcome back, everybody. I hope that you all had fruitful conversations. And it seems like you all took that full 60 seconds to come back. So I hope that means that there were some good conversations going on. So yeah, we'll have some time now to reflect on whatever you were talking about in your breakout rooms. If you have any questions for the panelists, I believe they're both still here. And yeah, comments, reflections, if you'd like to speak, just raise your hand. Yeah, Beth, go ahead.
Okay, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so we took some notes. First, we talked about how our different life experiences have shaped our perception because we weren't all raised during the same time. We had an interesting discussion about how climate justice activists turn to Indigenous elders for wisdom and the beauty of intergenerational partnership. Also, that younger people now have a space that older people didn't have, and that's enhanced by modern technology, and results are more immediate, but we learned from storytelling. So we talked a little bit about the different generations and how intergenerational solidarity works well when we can share our experiences and our understanding about issues, because we all come into organizations with bias. And one point was made that we need to listen more. Everybody from every generation needs to listen more, even to the cohorts of their own generation. And that in every generation, the issues are cultural, psychological, and personal. We are tribal, and that is exacerbated by social media, which places labels on us. So, and also finally, intergenerational advocacy is more difficult than just having an event, but CSW is working to improve that.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I see a few more hands raised, and I'm sure you have similar, different complementary reflections. So, Shyla, go ahead.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you. We had an excellent conversation in our breakout room, and the following are some of the key points. The first thing is, I'm not sure we answered all the questions, but I think we kind of merged everything into one. The first thing is that we do admire the older generations do admire, and younger generations do admire, the passion and the energy that the older generation brought to the space of feminism. And many of us were calling how we worked for the establishment of UN Women, and basically how the movement has emerged. And that we started from a base. I think everyone's starting point is different, and I think that should be a conscious factor that we keep in our strategy going forward, because where we start kind of determines what our strategy forward is. And for the older generations, they started in a place where there was so little equity. There was so little opportunity to speak. So we had to go to great lengths to be heard and actually physically go there. And that required more commitment of time. And to getting a seat at the table literally meant you had to be there. The second point that was raised, which is also very important, is that of the issue of time constraints. yes, the older generations also had tremendous time constraints, and many gave up, made sacrifices of perhaps a real paid career, or taking care of children, taking care of older parents. They had to give up time to do the feminist work. Now, the advantage that young people have, or the last generations for the last couple 20 years, is that we have technology, we have artificial intelligence, we have so many means to reach people quickly and to be effective. And together, the solution obviously is to find the work-life balance, which includes issues of women having sole childcare, although the balance we recognize in our group is changing a little. There's more equity in the family. Men are taking a greater part in that. There are many facilities you can utilize to ameliorate some of that responsibility, but it still does continue. So the technology and the artificial intelligence, all these means enable us to push the feminist movement forward faster, and the importance of older generations and all generations working to, I hate using the word older and younger, all generations working together to bring our talents to collaborate so we can move this forward. And then also we had a discussion about how in many regions, and in the US and in Africa, everywhere, we are really, all of us are really committed to bringing the generations together, to enabling younger generations to participate, to lead, to drive change. So there was no issue on or disagreement on that. The question is how, and the how comes down to just getting started. Engage young women in your organization. For example, at CSW, the U.S., I am co-chair of, vice chair of the U.S. Women's Caucus, and we had in-person event. We had 100 people come, and about 30% of them were very young people, and we gave them the floor to speak. Something that's never been done before. We had a whole program planned, but we set time aside to hear from young people. We had Girl Scouts young people. I'm speaking of young, and that's a good place to bring them in, to have them thinking. And do you know something, to my delight, a lot of them were saying what we were saying. And that was a confirmation that we're going in the same direction. And you know, when I look at everything as a big picture, we fought the same battles, we're fighting the same battles, but the way we get the solutions is a little different, using the means that we have. And if one person in our group also mentioned, and several of us did, issues of mental health. Young people are more conscious of mental health, of keeping that balance. I think in our in older generations, we didn't keep that balance. We just pushed everything to the limits. Those of you who may remember the superwoman model that we all tried to fulfill. So it was a productive breakout room, and I hope all of us take these ideas back and implement them. I'll stop there. Thank you. Apologies if I took too much time.
No, thank you so much, Shayla. And I really like what you said about just doing it. Like when we do try to collaborate, we find that we actually do have a lot more in common than not. And it's just about creating the opportunity to find that commonality and work together. And
as I said, sorry to interrupt, the 16-year-old Girl Scouts, they were saying what we were saying, what I said when I was 13. They're saying that. So I had a big smile on my face and saying we're in the right direction. Do it. Sorry, I apologize. Please go ahead.
No, wonderful. Thank you so much. Lori, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you. We too had an excellent breakout room, and I think Rajani was our fabulous leader. We talked about what we appreciate in our generation and what we appreciate in others, and I feel like Judy Lear and Magdalene Lewis were such good examples of that, both talking about mentorship. One thing that Judy mentioned is she was in Beijing 30 years ago, and she said, as I attended CSW this spring, I had that same feeling of we can do it. And she said it with such enthusiasm. I thought that in itself displays what we appreciate about her generation, is the enthusiasm and the mentorship. Tina Husing made a nice comment about using the concept of multi-generational, not just intergenerational, because it talks about bringing multiple generations together. So that was a nice comment. And then also, I actually spoke about building on Shayla's comment of mental health, not just recognition, but I think the younger generation has tools already. I have 4 daughters, and just the other day, my youngest told me that I was on orange and that I needed to take some breaths and that she wanted to give me an exercise. And I thought, isn't that interesting that she goes right into recognizing, but she has the tools and she wanted to help me. So I thought, she just has empathy. It's just natural. And I just think, how cool is that we can get this empathetic toolkit that's coming up to help all of us. So really enjoyed the breakout session. Thanks again, Rachel.
Thank you so much, Lori. And your daughter sounds amazing. That's so wonderful. Deary.
Hi, Rachel. So I'm going to summarize what we talked about into 4 points. I would talk about mutual admiration across generations. It has been touched on, so I'm just going to move on from that and we talked about intersectionality. And to me, that was such an important thing because there's such a growing understanding of intersectionality today than we had with the older generations. And a point was made that the older generations fought under a different kind of feminism, and the younger people now were expanding the lens and sort of like bringing new methods, diverse voices, nuanced approaches, which was very important. And I thought that it was important to bring forth to the House. And then the solidarity through connection. And we did discuss that true intergenerational solidarity would happen when we connect beyond screens. Yeah, when we sort of like create real opportunities to meet each other and to discuss, and this creation would start at the grassroots. It's important to start it at the grassroots, the people in the community level, to begin to discuss amongst themselves, create shared spaces of learning, moments of kindness, collaboration. That's such an important thing to building lasting trust. And then the last thing that I would mention is we talked about a major divide is a digital divide. And while younger people sort of like thrive online, older people so often feel excluded. There's always a new social media platform that's coming out. There's always a new platform. And older people are sort of like older generations are trying to play catch up, basically. And so we also said that it's important to also, for younger persons, to create spaces here for older persons to begin to offer a hand, to be kind as much as we can. Because the truth is that when wisdom and innovation comes together, we truly will be able to achieve the goals that we set out to achieve. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Priya. That's such an important point. I'm not sure, Skolarstika. I'm not sure if that's your name or not, but go ahead.
Yes, that's my name. Thank you. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. I totally agree. I wish I've raised up my hand because Deary has really said most of the things. But to add a little to what she said, I just pray you're listening to me because of the network. To add a little to what she said, I think the older generation and the new generation should learn to work together. We're having even most of times in my NGOs, we're having clashes, especially when we see, the younger generation, they're feisty, they have this creative stuff, and they will tell you, this is not the method to use, this is not how to do it, It's really making it hard for us to like project that. We are more feisty, we are spicy, we are resilient, we have this passion, we have this creativity. So I think they should allow us to like create that avenue and still be in line. And also the younger ones should also still learn from there, because most of these younger ones, as technology has really made most of them very lazy. They are creating webinars, they're not trying to go out, they're doing, but you see the older ones, they're very passionate, they want to go to this place, they're rallying, they're doing so many things, they're traveling. So we should try and, much as possible, work together so that we can create a better world for everybody, because this is our world. We are fighting for the same cause, even if it's a different method. So that's what I want to say. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you for bringing up that point again about finding space to meet in person, because as much as technology is an amazing tool, it really doesn't replace the interpersonal relationships that are built in person. And that power is so important to build. So thank you so much. Hawa.
Thank you, Rachel, and thank you to all the amazing participants in the breakout room. It was really good. So one of the things that came out in terms of what people admire about their own generation, both the young and the old, we had for the young people, people admired their boldness, they are outspoken, and they are tech savvy, they like technology, and the ability to think about their mental health, and also like take on initiative to explore without like thinking and all of that testing, you know. So, and for the older generation, they talk about their worth of experience that they have gathered over the years, and also their ability to predict or to see some of the things, right, and share with the with the younger generation. And also they are resilient. They have been very resilient, pushing forward, as we're talking about feminism, advocating for spaces and all of that. And the other question we didn't reach for, but we talk about some of the ways that people can work together, that intergenerational solidarity is the both generations coming with open minds to learn, to share with each other. And we had someone in our group talking about how they have worked together on gender and climate justice. And it has been going well because they all come with open mind, the young generation and the older generation. And she also shared that being like not knowing it all, but willing to learn from each other. And there was someone who said there are certain things about the older generation that they didn't like, and which made all of us laugh in the breakout room, was that the older people attitude of knowing it all, like coming to always like, yes, don't do this, but like bringing or thinking about their past experience and trying to control. I know the time is already almost finishing. I would like to stop there, but it was a very interesting conversation and we had a great time. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Hawa. I'll turn it over to Julie, and then if we have a little bit of time, maybe Aditi, if you wanted to share. I saw your hand was up. Oh, you're muted, Julie.
Good afternoon, everybody. I was with a group of Marcy, and we had a great discussion, except my technology here wasn't working that well. So first, I would like to share with you the cultural context during my time in the 60s, and that was a pivotal cultural movement. If those who were born the same year with me, we had understanding of the significant social challenges and changes, including civil rights, if you remember that, gender equality, and environmental awareness. Also, technology. I was a director of nursing then during the Y2K. If everybody remember that, that was nerve-wracking, just losing vital information in the hospital. But we surpassed that and became winners from analog to digital. So we've learned technology eventually. If I compare with my children, they could do it in a click of a second, while it would take me hours to do something technical and I would need their help. So work ethics, yes, definitely. At work, we born during this time have stronger work ethics. Being an administrator and an experienced director of nursing, you know your staff, the younger ones just come in and you don't see them as dedicated to those born, and the older ones, 60s like me, they could just resign if they don't want anything at work. Says, oh, I have other opportunities somewhere. But during my time, we were so loyal. We would try to work it out, what's wrong at work. Other thing was that financial insight, having navigated through various economic fluctuations. I've experienced recession. So now because of that experience, I would likely possess valuable experience in financial management, in investment strategies. So also the most important thing is the interpersonal skills. So we don't have social media, we don't have Facebook, Instagram. So we have face-to-face communication, and that fostered strong interpersonal relationship and skills and meaningful relationships. Like I would call my daughter, she's in her room, she will text me back. I said, no, come out here. I want to talk to you face to face. So I've talked about technology, cultural context, work ethics, financial insight, global perspectives. Having lived through the Cold War, you gave me a broader understanding of international issues and cultural diversity. Another thing is mentor opportunities. Of course, with years of our experience, we are positioned to mentor our younger ones, and we're doing that right now. So we share our knowledge and insights to our youth group. Right now, we built a youth group at the Women's Federation for World Peace. So I had a scholar from the Department of State whom I mentored for young global generations, and that we also created the group locally in New York. So I would say that we have a rich backdrop in navigating and helping the younger generation, and we could contribute to their success and personal growth. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Julie. I don't know if Aditi, you want to do a quick 1 minute?
I just wanted to say we had really inspiring conversations, and I think one of the key things that I think everybody's touched on most of it already, but I just wanted to say that we spoke about how we tend to tread lightly around intergenerational conflict and tensions and avoid it altogether. But people in our group spoke about how meaningful connections are only formed when we're able to create space for those difficult conversations, and it only makes our intergenerational connections stronger. Yeah, just that.
Thank you so much, Aditi. And I think you're touching on a super important point, that conflict is not a problem in itself, but it's how we address it, because it's inevitable. So thank you so much. I'm just going to quickly hand it over to Ivy and Pamela if they want to close us out. But thank you all so much for joining. This has been so meaningful, and I'm so glad to see how engaged everyone is in this conversation. It's clearly, much needed conversation. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I think it's the audacity for me. So as they close, I think we spoke about audacity. I don't know if it's come up. The younger generation are taking audacity to a new level. So glad, very glad.
Yes, we like audacity as a positive.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you,
Pamela and Ivy,
everyone.
over to
Yeah,
you.
we're closing, yes, this beautiful program, and I hope that everyone was able to engage. And Pamela, you're here with me, our intergenerational co-leadership that we started 2 years ago. My partner, and I could definitely say the personal connection is so critical in working well together. So is Pamela also here? Yeah, okay. So we just open our mic. Do you want to say something, Pamela?
No.
No, we just say bye to everyone in our traditional way.
Bye.
Bye,
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Kevin, danke.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Amazing. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Let's
Thank
do
you.
this
Thank
topic
you very
again.
much.
Goodbye.
everyone, and thank
Bye.
you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank
Be
you.
well.
Thank you. Thank
Take
you.
care.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Be well.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye, everybody.
Everyone.
Signing off now.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.